Call this meeting of the Clackamas River Water Board to order. We'll stand following the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Anger? Absent. Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Here.
Commissioner McNeil?
Here.
Commissioner Sola?
Here. Please note there's been a slight change in the agenda where item number 3 has been moved to the bottom after item number 5 for the purposes of consistency. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as changed or amended.
So second.
Any questions or discussion? Any additions or subtractions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is the opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone who has signed up for public comment today?
Sign-in sheet.
Last comment. Not the first time.
You prefer to wait till the end?
Yeah, the last public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a report from the executive session on July 9th, 2015. You?
That's the one I sent out.
We need to report out in public. Okay. If it'll take a minute, we can.
Yeah, why don't you go to something else now?
Okay. Suzanne, I see that you have a drought update for us. Can you come forward, please?
Hi. Okay, so I'm sure you have all been tracking the drought situation in one shape or form. Last month we were considered to be moderate drought. This entire area has progressed to severe drought. But still we have not had a drought declaration come down from the governor for Clackamas County, and that's because that request would need to come directly from Clackamas County. There hasn't been a drought meeting since the executive session where I reported back about what went on there, but there is one that is supposed to be scheduled for August 20th, but I haven't heard any confirmation on that yet, so I will be checking with Water Resources Department just to see if that's actually going to happen. As far as our situation, the river is definitely getting lower. The daily mean is at around 670 CFS, which is pretty low. Our stage 3 is triggered to go off if we dip below 750 CFS after September 15th. So just keep that in mind. So we're already below that.
Is it 750 or 730?
Well, in one area of plan it's 750.
Okay.
So like when you
I
go
just
to the
was-
table.
What was in here was 730.
Yeah. I have 730 written on my computer, and then right before I left, I double checked our conservation report, and in the table it said 750.
Whatever. I just remember what the number is.
Regardless, the way that it fluctuates, it's going to be pretty close. So there's a couple of things. There's no guarantee that we'll ever get to a stage 3. We don't know. Some things happen in September. One of them is kids go back to school and water demand goes down. The other thing that happens is PG can release water. Now they can only release, they say 100 CFS, but in reality it's about 90 CFS. And what that looks like when it gets all the way down to us, I can't really tell you because I haven't seen it done.
So it's a single release or a continuous release?
It's a single. You can do multiple calls,
Yeah.
but it's a single release.
Have you seen Timothy Lake?
I haven't been up there since
Yeah.
July.
There's not much left.
They say, they do confirm that they have the water and that they
Yeah,
will.
okay. I'm just
But
saying.
exactly, we don't really know how much that's going to help, so just be prepared. So it was our original intent to move into stage 2 this week. We had a boil water event that kind of distracted us, and then we felt by the time everything calmed down, we didn't want things to be diluted by the information for the boil water event. But we did send our Stage 2 PSA direct mailers to the printer for mailing. So they are going out and they should be arriving at houses next week. As far as contacting media, we're anticipating doing that on Monday. We don't want to do it on Friday because Friday is where news goes to die. We actually want to get the message out, so we will be releasing that Monday, Tuesday at very latest, but we're really looking towards Monday. Any questions? Yeah.
In your opinion, is declaration of drought by the governor being delayed because of the stand of Clackamas County and the other water providers?
In my opinion, no. It's not just the water providers, and that's what I think even the water providers tend to forget. It's the entire county. And so the Clackamas River water providers are not the only water providers in the county. There are other water providers out there. It's going to be also based on agricultural interest from the nurseries, and anyone who has an interest in using water. I know that they are talking about it, but I don't know where the county's at right now. I haven't heard anything that anything has been filed, but if we do hear, we'll let you know, and hopefully the drought meeting will take place August 20th, and that's a really good place to get a heads up as to what's coming down the pipeline.
Have you heard any more from the water master about the well? That was the one in their audio thing that they were watching more than the Clackamas Basin was how bad the
The
Mola was.
Molala's in bad shape,
Yeah, it is.
but I haven't heard any new updates from it.
Yeah, I was just wondering,
Yeah.
heard it.
No, it's under a special advisory,
Right.
and I think we heard, what is it, they're down to, what, 43 CFS?
It's low.
39
Yeah.
as of 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's low.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one other, so on the gauge, there are two new little things on the gauge. That's
Mr.
measure.
Tech over here.
What is that measurement?
On which one? On the
On
discharge gauge?
On the Oregon City gauge. It says measurement certified, measurement certified.
I'm not sure because I actually didn't notice when I was on there,
And it
but
was-
I
and
can,
it was done on the 11th.
oh, okay, I can look into
At-
it and
at
find out.
noon.
I'll
I
check
don't know
it
what
out.
that means. I was looking at the site trying to see if they had an explanation for that, but it's in red and it's easy to see, so.
Okay.
How long before you gonna stall around waiting for the declaration of the next,
Level 2?
pardon?
You mean level 2, Commissioner? I think she said Monday, Tuesday, Friday.
We're gonna raise it Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the mailers have already, they're at the printer, they're getting ready to go now, so.
I have one question. Have you had any conversations with
No.
Legislative as to whether or not they may join us in the stage
I'm
2
telling meeting.
in their district?
At last conversation, Lake Oswego was reluctant to join us, but they are tracking what we're doing.
Okay.
And they understand that it's time to move to stage 2, but when they will be ready to do it, I don't know. We could be kind of a tipping point for them, but there's multiple layers at Lake Oswego that will need to approve it.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I mean, I understand that. It's, but we would.
For the
like-
conservation department, they're ready. It's just getting through those layers.
Okay. I'm sure we would all like to know, as board members, if that occurs as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll back up on the agenda now and receive a report from executive session.
Okay, it was July 9th. The board met and discussed 9 specific topics. Number 1, proposed CEO 2015-2016 compensation package. Review of CEO compensation in comparable entities. CEO's 2015-2016 goals, various projects in progress and proposed, review of 190 agreement with SWA, CEO annual evaluation, CRW's proposals for preparing for and dealing with the drought, and review plans for the search for a CEO, how to speed up completion of the Carver Bridge pipe crossing.
Thank you. Next, action items. Number 1, acknowledge the insurance change to SDAO/SDIS. The chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Questions or presentation first?
It's all good, saves us money.
Commissioners, what this is as you know, we moved from private carriers back into the coverage of SDAO, SDIS. What this is called bridge protection, and what it means is that because we were covered by an alternative carrier than SDAO, and any events that may have occurred that may affect or involve you, the board, and the executive team during that period of time was not under SDAO's watch. So the bridge protection is coverage for 3 years to kind of complete the bridge until the full effect and force of SDAO occurs, which would be from July 1 of this year forward. So this is a 9,000 plus coverage for that period of time, for the 3-year period of time. So that's what this is.
Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, approve the extension of the contract with Wilson Airgood as the insurance agent of record, Dean Phillips Law for legal advice, and Moss Adams for auditing services. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Mr. Moore?
Yes, this is, as you know, we have 3 vendors, one being Moss Adams, who provides our auditing service, and the other is Phillips Law, who is our general counsel. And their contracts ended June 30th, and so what this does is extend their contracts for an additional year. The Wilson Air Guard policy is also up, and as you know, when I think you, the board, first came on, we had just entered into that coverage, plus we had done a modified search during that period of time to find an alternative coverage, and as a result, it was determined that Wilson Air Guard would be the vendor of choice. One of the things about the Wilson Air Guard is what we have found is that they pretty much have a monopoly on this as our agent of record. But they provide 2 levels of insurance. One or services. One is our agent of record, which is the one that really administers our plan and helps us identify new coverage. And the other is they provide coverage for workers' compensation and safety. That is additional coverage that when we went to the market, they were the only ones that seemed to provide this service. Nobody else does that. And so the recommendation of staff is that we extend theirs for an additional 3 years. So that's what this motion would cover. It would be 3 years for Wilson Air Guard, and then 1 additional year with Phillips Law and Moss Adams. Now, what I might say about our auditors, in a perfect world, you would not want an auditor to go beyond 5 years. You know, you want to keep it up, because what happens is there's a tendency to kind of recycle yourself and you want to make sure that it's competitive. But I think under the circumstances with Moss Adams and the kind of services that we have gotten from them, it would be a shame to bring somebody in and put them into a new learning curve on a lot of the issues that we have faced in the past. And so we're thinking that until we kind of get through kind of this bumpy period, that we keep them on retainer as well. So that's what staff is recommending.
Questions? Comments? Yes.
Would you say again for the record, how long has it been for each one of these 3 areas where we went out for CIP or whatever you call it?
Okay, we went for an RFP.
RFP.
It's really a request for services, because these are personal services contracts under the statute. Wilson Air Guard, as you guys have been commissioners for what, 3 years now, and we had done that modified search then, and we concluded at that point that we would stay with them. But I think as an agent of record, I don't know what the length of time Wilson's been here. I know it's probably been over 10 years. Okay, but we've gone to the market twice in my period of time, and we've not had any success at all in terms of anybody even responding to the service, except 3 years ago we had one vendor, but
How many years ago?
3 years ago, but he was not even in the ballpark in terms of being competitive. And then we also had the modified search where we had one vendor apply, and it was determined that they weren't capable of providing the service either. Dean Phillips Law, we've had for 8 years. And we have not gone back to the market at the request of the board because of the litigation that we've been involved in. And it just was felt by the boards at the time that to go out to the market again while we're in the middle of all of that didn't really make much sense. And Moss Adams have been here at least 6 years.
They've done 5 audits.
This will be their
Doing
6th
this
year.
year, this will be the 6th
This
audit.
will be the 6th year.
So is the principal is Dean looking to retire?
Yes, for the last 3 years.
I was just wondering, you know, I heard that.
What he has advised the agency and the board is that once we get through these events that we are working on, that he will retire.
Okay. I just didn't know whether something.
Okay. Any other questions? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil?
Aye.
Commissioner Soa?
No.
Motion carries 3-1.
Next item on the agenda, item number 4, water line easement. Will be a presentation by Bob George, our chief engineer. Mr. George, do you want to make your presentation, and then we'll entertain a motion?
That's a fairly simple water line easement. The Chevy's Restaurant on the corner of Sunnyside Road and 93rd is being remodeled. And basically, they need to move the hydrant, domestic meter, and the fire service. And so with that work, it's an extension of the main, come out of the building, which would be part of our facilities. We reviewed the drawings, it fits the easement. So presented to you is basically the basic paperwork for signing and recording the easement. And in the past, we've allowed the general manager to sign easements with the board, of course. If you have any questions, it's relatively simple. Easement.
Questions, anyone?
I'll do it.
Looks good to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your vote.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Again, questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Item number 5, Resolution 012016, second reading by title only, amending the local contract review board rules. Chair would entertain a motion on item number 5.
Move to approve.
We have to convene the local review board.
Excuse me, thank you. Thank you very much. We will recess the regular board meeting and convene the local contract review board. Now the chair will entertain a motion on item number 5.
Move to approve.
And I withdraw my other second, and I second this new motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 012016. Would the general manager read by title only?
Yes, because the general public may not
Thank you.
be aware of what we're doing here, and I think this is the public's business. I'd like to just note why we're doing what we're doing. This is a housekeeping provision, and as you recall from our first reading, if you turn to page 2, there are 3 corrections on page 2. One is number 2 under distribution and treatment. We've added the word system, okay? And under number 4, we've added the word equipment, so it's laboratory services and equipment. And under the second line in the last paragraph, we've added the word is. That's the extent of the housekeeping provisions. And now to read by title, a resolution amending, this is resolution 01-2015, a resolution amending local contract review board rules, whereas a regular meeting was called by the Board of Commissioners of the Clackamas River Water District on August 13, 2015, and whereas pursuant to the provisions of ORS 192-640, notice of said regular meeting and the purpose thereof was given by email, Clackamas River Water website, and/or telephone to the members of the governing body and the news media which have requested notice and the general public in accordance with the requirements of said statute.
Thank you. And I would point out that the agenda says 01-2016, not 2015, so I'm assuming that the agenda is actually incorrect on that. I just want to make sure the record reflects it appropriately.
Yeah, that would be correct, because the 1-5 designates the year
Yes.
that we're doing this
I
in.
just want to make sure that that's clear. Yes.
Did I hear you correctly? One of the changes is adding the word is.
Yes.
Could I ask you if that's Bill Clinton's definition of is? Or
It
is
all
that
depends on what is.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Well, there is no sex in this provision.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll request guidance on this for item number 3. Do we reconvene our regular meeting and close the review board?
No, Mr. Chair, I think we need to keep the review board
Open?
in session,
Okay.
and then I'll explain as I go through here. Okay.
And the next item under the local contract review board agenda is approval of surplus property for fiscal year 14-15. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Mr. Moore?
Yes, if you look at what is labeled in your package as agenda item 3, as you know, we have moved that down on the agenda. You will note under the agenda summary that it says CRW board policy provides for the disposal of surplus or unusable property in accordance with Oregon statutes and the local contracts review board rules. Well, when I read that, I think that staff misplaced this, because if we're doing this in accordance with the local contract review board rules, it should then be heard under the LCRB rather than part of the general agenda. So what this is, so the policy issue here is our statute requires that the general manager bring to the board annually a listing of property that we plan to dispose of. And under Oregon Revised Statute, you cannot dispose of public property until the governing body has declared it surplus. Once the governing body has declared it surplus, then staff has to follow then the next set of processes, which is to look and see if there are other government agencies that have a need for this equipment. Then after that, you look for nonprofits, and then you're in a position where you can advertise and dispose of the property. So we have one item that I think it is the
Number 5 on the new.
I think it's, yeah, number 5 on the list, that Sunrise, our partner agency, has advised that they'd like to take that and retrofit it and turn it into a hydrant vehicle, that they will put a flatbed on it. And so, in accordance with our policy, that would be the appropriate thing to do. So we would determine a value for it, and then we would transfer it to Sunrise. All of the other property then would be posted, or we could turn it all over to the surplus property division. We have had more success going to Craigslist, because when you have the state dispose of it, they take their cut first, and you find that you end up with diminished value. And so, for example, I think if you remember the backhoe that we had out at the facility, everybody was saying it has no value, and I think we sold it for almost $10,000. So I think staff has done a good job of going through the appropriate channels to dispose of this property.
So the state's just using eBay now.
Huh?
I think the state's just using eBay now.
Yeah, I think even they've switched over.
Yeah, they just
So
use
they
eBay
just-
now, and they just don't
Yeah.
fiddle around with that at all.
So anyway, this is being done in accordance with both statute and policy, and we ask the board's consideration.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now,
We will close the Contract Review Board and reopen the regular meeting of the Clackamas River Water Board at 6:28 p.m. And the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
They move to approve, yeah.
Okay. Dave, you second?
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and second. Is there anything that anyone wishes to ask questions about under the consent agenda before we?
One question for Carol or somebody. So the amount of water, the amount of money that we pay South Fork Water Board, is that monthly or is that quarterly? How's that billed? Thanks, Carol.
We do get a monthly bill
Uh-huh.
from South Fork Water Board, and it is based on metering of water that is used by the customers in the South Service area. So it does fluctuate pretty significantly throughout the year. The winter months, the dollar amount is fairly small. This summer, and I think probably the amount that you're looking at there is the largest that I've seen in a long time, if not in my entire tenure here. What we have had in the past is they do a true-up at the end of the year and determine if the rate that they were charging us is an appropriate rate based on, because it's based on budget. And the last couple of years, we've gotten some pretty significant refunds back that will generally show up on the next bill, like the July or the August bill. I think last year it was about $30,000, but don't quote me on that, I'm not completely sure. And I think the first year it was about $50,000. And in fact, it took 2 monthly bills to be able to absorb it because the amount that we were buying was less. Bear in mind, we're also in these last couple of years buying more water from South Fork than we had historically because of not using the well as well. Because in the summers we used to supplement the volumes of water that we bought by mixing it about 30% with well water, and we haven't been doing that.
and just for your guys, the reason that I wanted to ask that question is when we have our work session about the back button, I'm trying to gather as much information that we can about all the reasons
Why we're doing
why
this.
we're doing that, to make sure the public has a list of reasons why it's important that we complete that as soon as we can. So maybe a total look back for a couple of years to know that we can put that in the list of things that we're gonna use to justify why we're gonna do what we're gonna do, along with the stuff that we learned today about the problems that we're having with that pressure zone in Redmond, which will be abated if we decide to get that thing done. So all of these things matter for justifying what we're gonna spend that money on. Thank you, Chris.
One of the things, excuse me, Mr. President, one of the things that you might want to do, and I don't have the combined, but under attachment B in your binders, I want to call your attention to Commissioner McNeil, shows the gross water produced. So, and it shows it over the last 3 years.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
And we put it in graph form. I only have one page there. There should be 3 pages. One is the north, the other one is the south, and I think you may only have, but I can get the other copies. No, that's not it. So what I'll do, and then there's a total, and you'll see that.
Okay. I didn't use, yeah, right.
Yeah, so you'll see from May, April, and May forward, we're out producing previous years.
Yeah.
And that lines up pretty close with revenue.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion has been made to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Informational reports. Item number 6, management report. Mr. Moore.
Commissioners, this is kind of the monthly activity report that we had a work session in June on July 20th. We provided the board with a continuity operations plan, and I think we showed, because of the sensitivity of the data, we showed the administrative function. As we shared with the board then, that this is really a work in process, because if these things are developed properly, they're never done. They're very iterative, and so we've kind of gotten started on that. We also talked about the engineering department and provided an update on the Bell Avenue project. As you know, we had a slight overrun there, but that was primarily to some of our volumes that we had forecasted were kind of understated. I think we still came in under our budget. We just came in over the bid amount, and so in that segment of the work. Our Water Resources Department, needless to say, as you heard from Dr. DiLorenzo, has been extremely busy this month in terms of there's a lot of interest in drought and our water conservation activity. We did an overview of that at the work session. And we had indicated then that if the condition of the river changed and it met the stage 2 criteria of our conservation plan, that we would go to stage 2. We're there, and our intent was to go tomorrow, but because most of you who've been in the business know if you release anything on Friday, it generally ends up back by the obituaries, because people don't like to read about death, and it's a slow news day. So we decided to wait until Monday. The other thing is that we talked about the customer survey that we put out. We had what we thought favorable results in areas that we were surprised about. And we had over 70% of the people who responded. You know, we had over 1,000 responses, were pleased with and satisfied with our rates and the work that and services that were provided by staff. We also discussed the letter that we had sent on behalf of the board and staff to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, basically saying that we had some concerns. We thought there was additional information that they needed to consider in this drought declaration. We had asked the county staff to provide us with a copy of the document that was provided in addition to what we had sent to the county commissioners. And they said that that information had been tabled. So until it was presented in a public forum, it was not a public document at this point that they felt comfortable releasing. So we're waiting to see what that revised document looked like. Although they did assure us that they did not change the document that the board had sent to them. I know that some of the comments that I've heard from the board that that document could have been stronger, and but we were trying to play nice and really provide the information that we thought was relevant to the issues that were being discussed.
Question?
Yes.
On that topic. So did I understand you correctly that they plan on putting this topic on a meeting, a public meeting for the Board of County Commissioners to hear from staff? Or is it just going to be, I'm trying to figure out, we're gonna meet on the 20th, right? You gotta have to figure out what, you gotta figure out what the board's doing here.
Us or?
No, the board, no, the 20th, they're gonna, Board of County Commissioners is gonna hear the drought thing again. And so I'm trying to figure out, they're wrangling something.
They were specifically non-specific.
Yes, I know. You gotta read between the lines.
The 20th during the fair. They will be having their meeting at 10 a.m. at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds.
Mhm.
They may not cover that issue at that.
That's what I was wondering.
At that meeting.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did not.
Well, what I found out, because I know Commissioner McNeil had called me and says, you know, where is it in the process?
In the mix, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I found is that they had moved that issue to a special, I don't know if it's special, but they had moved it to as a policy agenda item,
Like they had,
rather than a board business agenda item.
they had one of those meetings yesterday.
Okay.
But I looked, and it was not on the agenda for the policy meeting yesterday. There's a whole different place you have to go look online
Yep.
to find out where that
Meeting
agenda
is.
for the policy stuff is. They don't make it easy.
Yeah, and it was difficult because when you went to that different place, it was recorded only, there were no minutes. And so therefore you had to listen to this,
Oh, mess.
the whole mess.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And after listening to it, I didn't know any more after I listened to it than I.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was just, are you kidding?
That's typical.
Yeah.
It-
Well, I asked the doctor a question, it was asked of you too. You think the governor's office is delaying drought declaration because Clackamas County Commissioner hasn't done anything and the other water providers are opposed to it?
I think the governor's office did just the opposite. When initially there was going to be no declaration at all by the governor, the day after they had the Salem meeting, the governor issued that declaration that I sent out to you all.
For state agencies.
For state agencies.
Right.
No, it didn't apply to everybody. If you read back, I thought it was just state agencies. Yeah, so if you read further into the document, it also talks about local government and special districts.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that put in targets. It was a
15%
it
over
was an
5.
aspirational document
Right.
more than it was kind of a certificate. It wasn't that explicit, so, but it was more
That's a reading
aspirational.
that, that's good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'd initially thought it was just for the state, but it wasn't.
Just for your edification, just so you understand the process, and you were on the board, so you understand this. If the county sees a need to have an emergency declared and that level of water restriction is a declared emergency, it would come from the county's emergency manager to the Board of County Commissioners. They would then vote on approving that declaration and then move that on to the governor for her to, or he to go ahead and approve that. And then we would also be on that list of counties that are in that level of conservation. And so the governor's hands are tied unless there's something else happens until the Board of County Commissioners sends that declaration to them. So,
Which you saw,
She basically is in a position to react to the county commissioners.
that's how the law's written.
So so whatever they're doing, we don't, whatever the county commissioners are actually doing right now, we really don't know, other than that they have not made that request.
Yeah.
We don't know why, but they haven't
And
made
so
that
if you look
request.
at the whole hierarchy, in order for, if there's a statewide, or even, they even do presidential declarations by county. And so the governor then would request the president of the United States to declare a national disaster for certain counties. And then that opens you up to money from FEMA and from other entities to get relief, so.
so to answer your question more specifically, with one exception, with the Malala River, the water master stepped over the county and went to the governor, which caused the governor to, it's called a special advisory or
Yeah.
something like that, because of the condition of that river is so bad. That they went ahead and took a little bit firmer action, but even then, there was not a drought declaration. It was a special study designation, is what they did. So I think that there's probably, and this is speculation, some politics involved, as always, and so, but beyond that, it's hard for me to say.
So if you go to Canby Utility District's website, I looked at it before the declaration, and I've looked at it since the declaration, and nothing changed. The policy that's coming out of their thing is we have plenty of water, there's nothing to worry about. So there's gotta be something going.
The other item that we talked about was the ORS 190. I know that's everybody's favorite subject. And the task group met, task group being 2 commissioners from CRW and 2 commissioners from Sunrise Water Board. And we talked that we got an update on the 190. And basically, the group chartered to the general managers to pick up the pace, if you will, on some of these and come back with reports on, with maybe some time references and so forth. And Mr. Hathorne and myself, as the general managers on Sunrise, are doing that as we speak. Since that meeting, he and I think, have met with every group and with both organizations. We're going to have an all-hands meeting on I think it's the 27th, isn't it? Where we would get everybody together and to review the individual plans, and we will bring that together. And I think we've had some good discussions, quite frankly, and I know that our engineering group is meeting tomorrow as a result of those discussions, and so I think things are moving along pretty well. Carver Bridge, our favorite subject. We have met with all of the principals individually. We have our council working on that. I don't want to talk about it too much in public because we are in, this is a legal issue, let me put it that way. But we have
It's potential litigation, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't even want to use that word, that what we're doing is that the last that I've heard, which is today, that they're trying to get all of the engineers in a room, which is what we wanted in the first place. That, so they could have a cuss and discuss session face to face, because as you know, if you leave one person out, it's the person that's left out that's fault, and so we want to get everybody in the room. And we also are moving forward with filing the appropriate notices that need to be filed in order to protect CRW's interests, let me put it that way. As you know, the Supreme Court has ruled in the Rogue Valley case, the city of Phoenix. And basically the conclusion there is that home rule cities have the ability to impose right-of-way fees. The court did make note of the idea that there has to be some rationale to the fee, but the court chose not to rule on that issue because it was not an issue in the appeal. We think that shortly, after talking with the principals at SDAO, that the court will be ruling on the Gresham case that more specifically addresses this issue of the reasonableness behind the fees. And what that is that Gresham, as you know, in their dispute with Rockwood, PUD, are using their monies to reinforce the general fund and using it for non-right-of-way issues. So it will be interesting to see how that case comes out, especially after the ruling in this particular case. And the next item that we have is I have had forwarded to me an emergency water supply agreement draft by the city of Portland. This is something that has been forwarded to me for my signature, but I think it's really kind of a policy question as well. You know, the 18-inch line that we have between us and the city of Portland, what this would do would be, I think we told you a couple of weeks ago, months ago, that agreement had expired. This would resurrect that agreement, so that in the event that there were issues with water supply, we would not be left kind of holding the bag, so to speak. So with the board's permission, I will go ahead and execute that agreement and get it back to them.
Any objection? Any objection?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Any objection?
To what?
To re-upping the contract with Portland?
Does the contract require us to complete the line?
No, it basically says that the line is there and that we're agreeing that if we need water, the line will be the conveyance that will be used to get it. So they have, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong here, they own the pumps, but we own we own the property and the pump station. It's kind of convoluted.
Well, a little convoluted. The system works two ways. We have a meter at the Portland system at the north end about the 18-inch water line in Portland, connected to conduit number 3 in Mount Tabor system. That's gravity. We can flow about 4 million gallons a day, gravity, from Portland to our system. Then Portland, back in the 90s, built a small pump station with our approval at our Audie Road Reservoir to be able to pump our water north through the 18-inch water line. The meter at the other end can be physically switched. We don't have a bi-directional meter. We have a meter they take out, turn it around. But this is 1930s, 1940 technology that was when it was built.
Yeah.
So in the future, we probably need a mag meter that is a bi-directional meter. Okay, that's not going to happen unless somebody's going to pony up a fair amount of money for a 10 or 12-inch meter that you may or may not know. As part of our emergency water planning, that probably will happen in the future. So we can move water both ways, and that's what the agreement addresses.
The other caveat here is when you looked at the initiative that the ratepayers or principals who were trying to float the initiative that they had put together, they had put in there a condition that there be no future IGA signed with any other water purveyors. It was the craziest thing I saw here. But now the city of Portland, what the city of Portland said, as you might recollect, said, if you, the ratepayer, don't pass that referendum, we will create our own PUD. We've been notified by the city of Portland that come September, they will create their PUD. I haven't read the governance statutes behind what that will look like because they haven't yet been written. There might be some attempts to reflect in the new PUD some of the terms and conditions that was in the PUD that was defeated. I think it's prudent for us to make sure that we're in under the wire before anything else occurs. And so that would be why I would recommend that we go ahead and move forward.
And so, do you suspect that the governance for this new PUD would still be the city council?
No, they've already announced that it'll be a 9-member board.
Oh, really? 9?
9-member board, and it will be made up of a cross-section of Portland. And
Did they vote on something like this? Did they vote on this?
yeah, but this is the response to the initiative that.
So is there any objection to the general manager going forward? There is no objection.
Sooner the better.
With
I've got one question back on the last topic about the Road River thing. And then the requirement that funds are strictly for this regulatory thing. Do they have some sort of an auditing system for clients or for utilities that have contributed to their funds?
Does the city of Phoenix?
Well, let's say the city of Oregon City. Do they have some sort of a structure that?
No.
So we don't know where that money's going.
Oh, yes, we do.
Well, you could, other than as a public record, I mean, I guess you could ask.
There's no. Well, there'd have to be some books somewhere, and I suppose they would say that, yeah, these are going into whatever the court required, and not just going into the general fund.
The court in the city of Phoenix case did not rule on that provision.
Well, they said the fee must be used for regulatory purposes.
Yeah.
That's pretty specific, isn't it?
It's specifically broad.
Yeah, but, okay, but that doesn't mean, for instance, your example of Gresham putting it in the general fund.
Gresham is using, as I understand it, they're using some of that money for police and fire.
Yeah.
They're using it for some other things as well. I think, that's why I think this is not settled yet, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I think that this other case coming through might be early, because really the court generally doesn't rule on what's not in the record. And because the Rogue Valley District, the special district, did not plead that in the record, the court did not rule on it.
But it sounds like what the court has done is said, hey, you guys might want to come back here with something more specific. So,
Well, they wouldn't
Go
come
home
back
and-
to the Supreme Court. I guess somebody could come through. When I sat in and listened to the oral arguments before the court spent quite a bit of time asking Oregon City, because Oregon City had filed an amicus brief, a friend of the court brief, in the case as well. How did you arrive at $15,000? And Oregon City's response was, because we need to cover maintenance. And the court said, well, don't you charge for permits? And Oregon City said yes. And he said, so I asked my question again. How did you arrive at $15,000? No response. The court's response was, so that's just a number, right? And that was the end of the discussion, so.
this is coming back.
Just here it is.
Yeah.
Any other
So,
questions?
so I don't know. But anyway, that's what I know about. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Item number 7, public comment. Mr. Mitchell?
I was kind of curious that when I drove up in here, those brand new Toyotas, or CRW, the pickups. I'm just wondering, are they? I mean, because I know at one time when the boards in the past, they were concerned about buying America first.
We have,
I mean, it was a big issue when it's several process.
I'd like to advise Mr. Mitchell that those vehicles were made in Torrance, California.
Okay.
we had that, we did have that
American
discussion.
labor, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know, I was gonna bring the same
We had that
up.
discussion.
Do you know where Toyotas are built in this country right now?
No.
Indiana, Florida, and California.
Yep.
And Fords and Chevrolets are made in Mexico and Canada.
Trust me, I asked that question, and that was the answer I ended up with, so,
Okay.
but thank you.
All right. And I guess the second one, I heard that, in the surplus, one of the trucks is put up for auction and sold to Sunrise. Flatbed or something? Or did I misunderstand? When you're talking about surplus,
Not auction, the law allows us to transfer public property from this district to another public district by approval of the board. And there's no auction. We will have it appraised and a price determined, and then they decide whether they want it or don't want it.
okay.
Yeah, our action here was just to simply approve the list of items that are going to be declared or are declared surplus. Then there's an entire series of policies that the general manager is required to, along with our finance director, to follow in terms of the actual disposal.
Well, the third question is, you discussed about your contracts with Ross Adams and Dean Phillips and kind of open contracts. And so pretty much, there's 2 years left on you guys, it's less than 2 years left on board members, 3 of you. So it's pretty much an open contract because of the second court case I have going on. Won't probably be over by then. The first one took 3 years. So he's gonna be here close to 10 years before, there's even a chance to look at going outsourcing again like we did as a board in 2007. And I don't know, is that what you guys are saying tonight? That he's probably got a long-term open-end contract?
It's not an open-end contract, but it will come up before the board again. But at this point, we have renewed the contract.
You got a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I heard something till all the legal issues get settled, then you'll retire from CRW.
If we're lucky, they'll be settled this year.
Time will tell.
And then I guess the last one is, when I was a board member, I used to see documents, and my understanding when I took office was, and elected, I signed off on everything. I was kind of curious that Ms. Naomi signed off on accounts payable and all that. And the second part of it is last month on the report about, I think it was $40,000 US bank fees a month. And I guess it was just touched on the credit card because people come in and take out credit card and buy account and stuff. I was just kinda curious how many credit cards, how many employees have credit cards. That was an issue in 2007, 2009. There was a lot of extra credit cards, so kind of curious if it's back to normal routine before 2007. They used to have them laying around in trucks for anybody to grab.
To the best of my knowledge, that's not the case, but what I would ask that you do is if you have a question of that nature, which is something that only staff are going to be able to answer, would you please put that in writing to the general manager, and then we will see to it that you get a proper response.
Okay, in a board meeting, or do I have to?
You wouldn't have to wait for a board meeting if you just get it, if you get it to him, he can give you an answer, unless he has an answer now.
He said right now.
I think, what do we,
I heard it.
Ask the
I heard
question.
it.
Okay.
I mean, I've never used to have me go through him, and then he'd go through the general manager. Back, it was like that, it wasn't direct.
Well, apparently he has an answer, so.
well, there are multiple points here, and I think it's important. The first one is duties of the treasurer. That seems to be an issue that's come up several times here. According to board policy on page 4 of the policy book, in the absence of both the president and secretary, the treasurer shall perform the duties that have the rights and obligations of the president. That's one responsibility. And the second responsibility is the treasurer, in addition to the president, shall sign short-term debt notes. That's it. That's the only authority that the treasurer.
It wasn't different than 2007. but
The-
okay, no answer.
The second question that you asked was on credit cards. One of the reasons that you see large amounts on at least one credit card in particular is that our buyer, who buys for the entire agency, charges the majority of his purchases on one card. That person has a card. I have a card that's used for purchasing. And we have, I believe, 3 other managers that have, I think there's 6 total. There's 6 credit cards total. Those are audited every month
I
by
think it might be
our
7
staff.
now. I think it's 7 now.
7 now, so there's 7 credit cards. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Under Commissioner business, commissioners are reminded by the end of the month to try and get your forms turned in for your compensation packages. And is there anything that any commissioner would like to bring up? Dave?
One thing, in light of our work session on the backbone, I would ask that you invite the board members from Sunrise, because part of that project has stuff that will benefit that water district. And if they have questions, I think it'd be a great time for them to ask questions. I think it'd be a good time for them to understand, you know, where this board wants that project to go, the reasons why we want that project to go, and the things, the benefits that Sunrise may be able to get from that project.
So I would ask the question, and I think it's just pro forma more than anything else. There has been a request by Commissioner McNeil to have a work session on the 17th, which is our regular day for work session. And I'm assuming that the board is not objecting to that.
No objections.
And the specific request is to address the backbone and kind of bring the board up to date on where we are with that. And staff is prepared to do that. Another comment, I think it's a good one that you raised, at least internally, we had a meeting today even on the backbone, and where Mr. George got staff together, and Sunrise was represented in that meeting.
Oh, good.
And because, as you'll see when we get into that discussion, we're starting essentially at the 152nd reservoir and going all the way to Beaver Creek Road across the bridge. The other thing, and I don't want to take the thunder out of the meeting that we're going to have, but one of the things that Mr. Hathorn and I are looking at with our staff, and our staff has kind of picked up the mantle with that, is that the way our engineering groups are structured, that what we've tasked the engineering groups to do is to think of our engineering group as an engineering company that are providing services to both agencies, so that we can begin to combine these project listings. We're talking about joint master planning, and because there are some crossover, and we need to, plus we have a multiplicity of skills that can be maximized by pulling those together. So we'll talk more about that, but that's the philosophy that we're talking about as we look at this backbone project. The other thing that's happening, and we'll talk more about this now, know more about this on the 17th, we have identified what the board has asked us to do is not only look at bonding, and I have a meeting with the chief bonding person, it's coming Monday, but to also look for alternative sources of money. We are now doing that. The state has created some additional funds in the form of grants or matching funds, and so we're going to be looking at that as well. And we've assigned a person out of Carol's department who has a lot of expertise in grants. Came to us from what DEQ is, I understand, and she's running point on that to try to find those monies and see whether or not we can get any traction there as well. So those are the things that we're doing. Really the message here to the board is to be urgent, and that's at the top of our list of things that we're working on. So.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any questions? No other issues? We stand adjourned. Thank you.